Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you're watching from. It's Business Morning, live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams. Great to have you join us, and happy holidays. Well, let's start off with markets that are not sleeping. All prices slipped today in the second day of thin trading in Asia, pulled in opposite directions by China's COVID-19 lockdowns, which could weigh on fuel demand and prospects for a supply hit from a possible European oil embargo in Russia. Brent crude futures fell 23 cents to $107.35 a barrel, wiping out gains earlier in the day in trading thin by holidays in China, Japan, and parts of Southeast Asia. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures similarly dropped 24 cents to $104.94 a barrel after hitting an intraday high of $105.80. Both benchmark contracts rose more than 40 cents on Monday and extended those gains modestly in early trade on Tuesday. Beijing reported dozens of new cases daily in an outbreak that has entered its second week as a mass testing residents to avert a lockdown similar to Shanghai's over the past month. Traders will closely watch U.S. inventory data. The American Petroleum Institute Industry Group will report stockpiles for the week ended. That's April 29th and today. Followed by government data from the Energy Information Administration. That's tomorrow. Meanwhile, sources of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries says the cartel and its allies may stick to existing deals and agree on another small output increase for June at the upcoming meeting on May the 5th. Late last month, the group known as OPEC Plus agreed to maintain the existing agreement of a 5% output increase, continuing its firm stance on output held since December 2020. And the Nigerian government and Morocco are planning to build the world's longest offshore pipeline and second longest pipeline in the world to carry gas from Nigeria to Morocco. It was made known by the president's media aide, Tolu Ogunlesi. It was disclosed via his Twitter handle. Explained that the partnership for the 7,000-kilometer-long gas pipeline, originally designed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and home to Morocco in June 2018, will link the two countries, run across 11 West African countries and extend to Europe when completed. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Temipire Silva, has said that the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline may not be completed under the Buhari regime. And in our first conversation, our focus will be on the federal government's 2022 fiscal policy measures. That's right after the break. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. And in a bid to reduce trade costs and enhance a more transparent trade-enabling environment in Nigeria, the federal government has approved the implementation of the 2022 fiscal policy measures made up of the supplementary external tariff 2022-2026 and excise duties on non-alcoholic beverages, alcoholic beverages, cigarettes, as well as telecom services. To discuss these measures, we have joining us Dr. Muda Yusuf, CEO, Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise. Great to have you.
Thank you, Ladi.
And happy holidays.
Thank you.
It's great of you giving us your holiday on Business Morning. So looking at this fiscal policy measures, obviously we're at a point where, incomes are being squeezed. Firms are also feeling the pressure with, increase in input costs, at this point. And the federal government has released this fiscal measures. That was last month. What is the significance, of these measures, at this point to the Nigerian economy?
Well, thank you very much. The fiscal policy measures are very, very important. The conversation around policies and budget sometimes we lay too much emphasis on budgetary appropriation year in, year out. Whereas these fiscal policy measures have much greater impact on the economy, particularly on investment. It has a lot of implications on the capacity to grow investments or even discourage investment, as the case may be. It has a lot of implications for job creation. It has a lot of implications for the competitiveness of businesses and their sustainability. Because fiscal policy measures has a lot to do first with the tariffs, import tariffs. And when we are faced with the kind of situation that we are faced in now, because there are quite a number of challenges, both to the individuals or households and to businesses. And to deal with these measures, it is not enough for us to have what we are having in the monetary policy space, intervention funds and all of that. It is also important that we complement these measures with our fiscal policy measures. Let me give you an example. Because of the challenges of energy costs now, the Chinese government has taken a decision to cut tariffs on coal, importation of coal, to zero. Import duty on coal is zero. They are doing that in spite of all these issues of carbon emission, decarbonization, but they realize that there's an emergency as far as energy cost is concerned. And even in US, with all the issues between US and China, there is now a conversation in the parliament on how to reduce import tariffs on some selected items that are being imported from China. Because inflation in the United States had reached a 40-year high. So all of these measures need to be put on the table when we are dealing with economic challenges. So in Nigeria, for instance, look at what inflation is. Look at the effect of inflation on the citizens and on businesses and on welfare. So what are we doing about using some of these fiscal policy measures to deal with these issues? For instance, look at the cost of bread. Over the last 1 year, we are talking about close to 100% increase in the cost of bread.
Bread alone.
Yes, and bread is a staple. So when you have a country that is so ravaged with poverty, that the citizens are crying about access to food.
And we know how that impacted Egypt. The last time they had
I mean, these things,
increase in bread
you can
prices.
use your fiscal policy. You can say, okay, for those of you who are producing flour, because the major inputs for bread production is wheat and sugar. The price of these things have gone up astronomically. Then on top of that, we have the exchange rate depreciation. So in order to cushion the effect of that, you can say, okay, for those of you who are in the flour mills production, the importation of wheat, at least for now, should be zero duty. The importation of raw sugar for those who are refining the sugar, I'm not talking about finished product now. The importation of the raw sugar should be 0%.
But is there any risk to that at all? You know, having, most of these products actually have zero import duty. Is there any risk?
There's no major risk because you are dealing with an emergency. You can feel the pains of the citizens. So whatever you can do through the deployment of this policy, even if it is temporary, you do it. Customs revenue is just 8% or even less of total government revenue. And if you see the impact, the adverse impact of this changing of customs revenue on businesses, on investments, on welfare, is huge. You cannot compare the effect to the revenue that they are generating. For every 1 million revenue that customs is generating, you can be sure of some detrimental effect to investment, to jobs, to welfare. That is probably more than 5 to 10 million naira. So we need to balance out this.
So does it mean the customs need to change focus at this point?
No, the issue is not with the customs.
No, I'm saying when it comes to revenue, generation by, the customs at this point, because that is also playing into, what you just mentioned now.
But I agree with you, because there is too much emphasis on revenue generation by customs. And the customs, they will tell you that their own is to implement policies. They don't formulate the policies. So this appeals to be going to the fiscal authorities. You need to identify the challenges that citizens are facing in order to shape the structure of your fiscal policy. There's too much emphasis on revenue generation. I have not had any major conversation on trade facilitation. Each time there's an engagement with the customs, either in the National Assembly or the executive, it's all about generating revenue. And the process of trying to meet the so-called revenue targets, they hurt investment a lot. They create challenges for those who want to set up businesses. They create challenges for people who are already investing.
At the end of the day, the government needs revenue at this point.
The government needs revenue, but you need to compare your drive for revenue to the cost implication for the economy. You know, we should have a holistic view. If your fiscal policy is much more conducive for investment, if investors are not facing too much challenges at the point of entry, it could be challenges around their equipment. It could be challenges around their cost of, inputs, raw materials. And I can tell you they face a whole lot of challenges in this area.
So I guess the cost of governance comes into this conversation at some point.
Of course, it's also part of it. Because if you reduce all of these costs and you encourage more investment will mean that even your GDP will increase. You'll be able to create more jobs. And at the end of the day, you will make more revenue. The revenue may not be coming from customs, but it will manifest in the area of company income tax.
Talking about
it will manifest in the area of VAT.
I remember when they talked about in the US, you know, when Elon Musk paid a huge amount for tax as the Tesla company. That was just one company paying that massive amount of, you know, in taxes in the US. And it'd be nice to see Nigerian companies actually, you know, achieve, you know, greater than that, more Nigerian companies, not just a few.
Of course, you know, the focus really should be on how to nurture, create an environment where you make more revenue from company tax. Company tax is a tax you pay after you have made your profit. And before you make that profit, you'll have even generated a lot of employment, which is part of the things that we need critically.
All right,
and how do you deal with a situation, for instance, you have a country that has major challenges, for instance, with power. And the import duty on generator is almost 40%. How do you reconcile that?
What about
if you cannot generate electricity, encourage people to sort themselves out.
And that goes for other
even renewables.
Renewables too. And
there's no reason why we should be having any tax at all on renewables. Either you are talking of solar panels, you are talking about inverters, you are talking about batteries. Because you are talking about energy transition.
But this import dependence still...
It's not, you see?
It still hurts us.
No, it's not a question of import dependence. You need to also build your capacity to be self-reliant. And in all of this, we need to determine, because it's a strategic thing, you need to determine what items are strategic and what items you need to liberalize in terms of tariffs. If you need items, for instance, of things that you don't produce locally, take ICT. See the impact of the digital economy globally. See the impact that the growth of digital economy can make on unemployment, the impact on the youths, the impact on innovation, the impact on productivity. So the key things that you need to enable to empower the digital economy, you don't have to put too much tariffs on them, because you don't produce these things locally. So if you get them in easily, at very low tariffs, a lot more youth will have access to digital technology.
And there should
a lot
also
more
be
investors.
Investment too in research and development.
Exactly,
so
innovation.
We can also produce some of these things.
Produce one of these things, and before you know it, the revenue that you are policing at the border to get, you get even more, because you have created an economy that has grown significantly because of, so the importance of trade facilitation, and I keep emphasizing this. There's too much emphasis on revenue generation with the customs. And it's not the fault of the customs, I must tell you. It is the total framework of fiscal policy.
Quite interesting.
I mean, if you have something that, you have costs on that, just 8% or even 7% of total revenue, the impact, the adverse impact on the economy is far more than that.
All right, let's talk about the national list now.
Yes.
That's another one. It's about concessions to some, sectors. Is this a good move?
It's a good move. And it's also aligns with the point I just made. In this, what we call the supplementary legislation or the supplementary protection list that you have, the national list is part of it. And the whole idea of the national list, which is a major component of this fiscal policy measure for 2022, is to ensure that we have very low tariffs on some critical sectors, critical inputs in some critical sectors. Things like the agro-processing, some in the health, some in manufacturing, and all of that. So these things are good because on the national list, we have tariff ranging sometimes from 0 to maximum of about 10%. And the whole idea is to strengthen domestic production capacity. Because even China, if you check their import bill, it's also running to trillions of dollars. Every country needs some imports to be able to build capacity, to invest, and capacity to even export. So it's a question of being strategic in what you allow and what you don't allow. And we should also have a clear strategy to determine the systemic impact of some of these policies.
But what's a clear strategy for a country that is heavily reliant on importation?
The clear strategy is to determine what you are good at, to determine your competitive strength, to determine what you need to bring in to strengthen your capacity. I just gave you an example of ICT. Many of the critical components we need in ICT, we don't produce it here. So when you are talking about ICT equipment, you don't begin to talk about import dependence. Because you need to depend on those imports to build your capacity to grow your digital economy. I know what some investors in ICT face when they are importing some critical equipment into this country. It's a nightmare. They'll be running from pillar to post, issues of duty classification, valuation, approvals, all sorts of things. Sometimes it can be extremely frustrating. There was a case of some investors in the health sector. During the peak of COVID, they imported ventilators. By the time it got to the ports, the customs said because the ventilator has compressor, then it has to attract the duty of a fridge or an air conditioner.
These are important health facilities.
It created a whole lot of problems for that investor. And we are talking about health sector. We are talking about COVID. So all of these things are important.
So it boils down to all the red tapes, being tackled.
The red tapes are is all part of it.
Right.
The procedures and the challenges of trade facilitation around procedures with customs, around the terminal operators, around the shipping companies. All these key players in the ecosystem of international trade, we need to pay a lot more attention to them.
Right.
Because what their activities hurts the economy a great deal. It's limiting the capacity to create jobs. And we need a lot of employment. Look at all this insecurity problem. Part of the reasons we are having this is because of unemployment.
So we need to tackle.
We need to deploy these fiscal policy measures.
Quite a lot to unpack there. And obviously, you start by making a move, step by step, and we're eliminating, most of these red tapes that are disturbing international trade at this point. All the trade inhibitors. It is a big problem. But thank you so much, Mr. Muda Yusuf. your recommendations, quite sound. I must say, thank you also for giving us your holiday.
Okay,
and do enjoy the rest of it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. All right, so after the break, it will be the largest consulate globally, estimated at $537 million. Talking about the construction of a new consulate office in Lagos. That's our next conversation. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back now to our next conversation. The United States government has commenced the construction of a new consulate office in Lagos. It should be the largest globally. It's come to Nigerians as a surprise, and it's quite groundbreaking. Estimated at $537 million. The new consulate office will occupy 12.2-acre space in the rapidly developing Eco-Atlantic city. Will provide a modern space for the largest consular operation in Africa. For more about this project, we have joining us Stephen Ibeli, U.S. Consulate Public Affairs Officer, live on Business Morning. Great to have you.
Thank you, Laddie, very much. It's great.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, and happy holidays to all of you out there, all of viewers. Happy holidays and happy Eid.
Thank you for that. And wow, quite a groundbreaking project there. And I'm wondering, why is the U.S. government building the largest consulate in Nigeria?
Well, there are a lot of reasons, Laddie. One is Nigeria is the biggest democracy. It's the biggest country. It's the biggest economy, arguably, in Africa. And so there was a strong partnership with Nigeria since 1960. For 62 years, we have had a very strong partnership. In addition to that, there is really growing ties, cultural, artistic, music, entertainment, with the United States. 500,000 Nigerians live in the United States. When I ask people, where do you think Nigerians outside of Nigeria live? People say, oh, Canada, England. Somebody said Ukraine last week, and actually it's the United States. Wow. And so you have over 100,000 Nigerians also traveling back and forth as well, and it's the biggest source of immigration to the United States. There are over 13,000 students, Nigerian students. Nigeria is actually the 10th largest sending country of students to the United States. That's #1 in Africa and number 10 in the world.
And that's why we need the biggest consulate.
Absolutely. Right. And so that really is a symbol of the partnership, the strong partnership across many sectors. Our health, the health sector, the education sector, the security sector, for example, Ladi. So it really symbolizes that strong partnership between the two countries.
Quite incredible. But what does the U.S. stand to gain from this project also?
Well, again, it's all about the relationship. We are the government, and so we're not a company. And so our bottom line is a little bit different than a company. It's not profits, but it's impact. And we have a lot of impact in Nigeria, working with Nigerian partners, again, across all of those different sectors. And so that is really the gain. It's the impact, it's the relationship, it's strengthening the bond between the two countries. We work at that every day. That is our job, to strengthen and deepen that relationship with the Nigerian government, working in partnership with civil society, with the government, with businesses, with American businesses, with Nigerian businesses, with entrepreneurs, with students, for example. So we really are proud.
Quite an important job.
It is. It is.
Well, what features should Nigerians, expect, from this new project?
Well, as you mentioned, the groundbreaking, it was this huge event. The actual campus is 5 hectares of land, as you mentioned, 12.2 acres. Right. And so there's going to be a 10-story building. There will be bigger consular waiting areas, more consular windows, for example. It'll be a huge campus, parking, recreational facilities, all at Eco-Atlantic. Eco-Atlantic development.
Quite interesting. I like the recreational part also.
Yeah. No, it'd be, because we work and we live in, those areas, and so there's a lot there. But it will be really a fantastic building, and also not only that, but it will also be a green building. And so we're going for the silver certification for LEED, which is a internationally recognized environmentally sound building designation. In addition to that, we're going to feature art from Nigerian artists and American artists, again, to demonstrate those close ties. There are more Nigerian artists going to the United States as well, and that is really, really growing. Look at Rele Gallery, just opened up their gallery in Los Angeles, for example. That's just one symbol. Nigerian artists are going now to art exhibitions and art shows where you've never seen that really happening before. So there's a lot happening really in the creative space.
Quite interesting. That means I could just come visit, you know. And
welcome, Laddie, please.
The project is actually completed.
Well, as they say in Nigeria, you are welcome.
So how would you describe the U.S.-Nigeria bilateral economic relationship?
Well, it's really growing. You know, you see American companies investing here, $5.5 billion in really direct investment. There's a $10 billion trading relationship between Nigeria and the United States. That's one of the biggest in Africa. Kimberly-Clark just opened a $100 million factory in Ikorodu, where they're manufacturing diapers. That's led to over 1,000 direct jobs, 5,000 indirect jobs. Also very interesting, there is a dairy farm that we've done with our Foreign Agricultural Service in Ekiti, where they're producing about 10,000 liters of milk daily. And the cows came from the United States. And we didn't ship them by boat, we flew them.
Wow.
So we call them the flying dairy cows of Ekiti as well. But that's a great symbol of, again, of that partnership and that relationship.
So that's showing support for, you know, the agric value chain at this point. Quite interesting. But how does the U.S. government support, you know, women's inclusive participation in the Nigerian society?
Yeah, we're very, very focused on that. And the reason why is because when women do better, families do better, societies do better, communities do better. And so we really want to level that playing field, that have that gender parity, whether that's in political inclusion, whether that's in economic inclusion, whether that's in domestic, you know, violence, which we work on as well. Because that is the simple fact that when you invest in women, you are investing in your country, and you can't have half a country working. You have to have a country in full, men and women working together towards the prosperity, towards the development of that country. And that's what we work on in Nigeria.
Quite interesting. And I hear you have an academy for that. It's called the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs. That's AWE.
Yeah. Or they say Awe. Awe here.
Quite interesting. Tell us about that.
Well, we started in 2019. And we basically have a model that is modeled from the Arizona State University Thunderbird School of Management. And the women really understand how they can grow their business. Women who enter either have a business idea or they have an established business already. And they're trained in how to get funding, how to grow their business, how to manage their business. And since then, we have seen a huge growth in this program, not only in Nigeria, but across the world, but especially in Nigeria. And it's out of our Department of State, Washington office, and they have been really supportive of increasing this. So last year we had 250 candidates. There were 15,000 applications. 15,000. And we just closed now an application for another 250, and we had 17,000 applications. It really shows the strength of this brand for this Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, because they also are a network and they help each other. I go to pop-ups. I've helped some friends with some pop-ups, and every time I go to these, I always see one of our Academy for Women Entrepreneurs having her booth or exhibiting or selling. That was true also at the GT Food Show, for example, Food and Drink Show over the weekend. I saw a couple as well. So it's really, really amazing seeing how these women are growing and developing their businesses.
Well, is there some provision for funding? Because we know funding is an issue when it comes to MSMEs in this country.
No, absolutely. Well, one thing is when they graduate, they become government alumni, and they become part of that part of that network, and so they're really eligible for grants from the United States, for example, or from the consulate. The African Development Fund has funded several of them, up to $10,000 of funding. We've gotten private sector partners. The Venture Garden Group is now a partner in supporting this AWE, or Academy for Women Entrepreneurs program, and so it's really starting to grow and involve also, you know, Nigerian industry and Nigerian banks. We have talked to the Bank of Industry, for example, Lagos State government as well. So we hope that they also will come on board and further support this wonderful program.
So for women that want to be a part of this, like, what is the selection process like for the AWE or program?
Right. Yeah. It's pretty easy. I mean, it's open to women from 18 to 45. They have to either have a business idea or they have an established business already. They have to be able to dedicate about 5 hours a week in group sessions as well. And they have to be a little bit computer literate, be able to use the computer, use the internet, have an internet connection. But that's basically it. And then they submit the application, and every application is read and evaluated by multiple teams until we have distilled it down to this case, 250.
Are there particular sectors you actually target for, you know, people that want to enroll in this?
Ladi, that's a great question. You know, it's amazing the ideas these women have. Some are working in the automotive industry, you know, auto body fixing. A couple of them have security companies, recycling, upcycling, clothing, fashion, agribusiness, food as well. And we work with them too because they can export to the United States. You have to meet certain standards. The biggest one is not having adulterated products, but we work with them because there are opportunities for these women also in Nigeria, but also exporting to the United States. Some even have opened shops in the UK, for example. But we want those shops in the US.
In the US. So how's the mentoring? Is that some kind of mentoring, you know, program for these women?
Yeah, mentoring is really part of this program. And what's amazing about this program is, though, even though they're women entrepreneurs and you would think they would be competing with each other, they're really supportive. And they help each other, and they have a network, and so the network really helps each other out. I think it also helps that not all of them are in the same industry, so they're not just competing across one industry, and I think that really helps. And they have, again, an alumni association now that also supports them after they've graduated from the program, and so we're really proud of all of our entrepreneurs.
Quite interesting. And I know you're big on entertainment, you know, in Nigeria. And I'm going to ask you, what's your best Nigerian song?
Well, I mean, I really like...
genre.
I'm sorry?
Your genre. What genre
Well,
do you
I mean,
like?
you know, Afrobeats is like taking the world by storm.
Right.
You know, the Headies is going to be in Atlanta this year in September. So, you know, whether it's Burna Boy, Wizkid, I mean, I love the song Finesse. You know, I sing that all the time. That's a great song. That is a great song. I was in a restaurant, you know, a few months ago. I saw Thames walk in, you know, for example. So it's really amazing.
Quite interesting.
No, it's great that there's that continuing connection. There's connections through entertainment. Also agriculture, for example. We're bringing the cowpea here. So you can have your akara, your moi moi.
Right there.
Yeah, right there with American cowpeas that we've developed with Nigerian authorities. And so we're just so happy about the relationship.
Quite interesting. Looking forward to the completion of these projects and all other projects you're working on. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks, Ladi.
And Stephen Ibeli, U.S. Consulate Public Affairs Officer, it was great of you giving us your holiday.
No, thank you very much. And you'll be the first invited to the when we commission the building.
Fantastic.
We'll see you there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ladi.
All right, now, so that was Stephen Belly, U.S. Consulate Public Affairs Officer. We're talking about the groundbreaking consulate coming up in Eco Atlantic in Lagos. We're looking forward to that. Right about now, we're heading to the markets. We have Anyete standing by right there. Even though the markets are closed, opening tomorrow, Anyete, well, you have some news for us. Let's hear it.
Yes, good morning, Ladi. It's still a holiday-shortened week for the market. Of course, we had about 2 days public holiday, which is ending today. And yesterday I talked about the equities market. Today I will be talking about the financial market, to be precise, the forex market, as well as the fixed income market. So let's get started with it. And mind you, we're still reviewing what happened at the market last week. So last week, at the end of the week, what we saw at the forex market, the trading at the FMDQ forex transactions, it was mostly positive, as you can see across board here. Total transactions carried out was 57.01%, and then the total value was at $942.7 million worth of transactions. That was what was traded at the market there. Then on the board, you can see the FX spot market. It went up by 58.06% at what you see here, the daily average and the weekly average, 82.88 and 164.58. For the forwards market, it was down week on week, 23.33%. And then for the FX derivatives market, it was up by 50.12%, as you can see on the board there. Now, moving over to the Naira was down a second time, week on week. This time it was down by 0.02%. The previous week it was also down. And then the current level, as at the close of Friday's trading, it was 416 Naira 55 kobo at the Nigeria Autonomous Foreign Exchange rate. 416 Naira 55 kobo against 416.77. 416.77 kobo, which it did the previous week. Now let's move over to the fixed income market, starting with the bonds. There was bearish sentiment there. That comes as demands for FGM bond remained tepid, with only a handful of trades passing through during the week. Then the total value that we saw there is 6.08 billion naira. The highest number of deals was carried out on the 21st of January 2042 paper. Of course, last week we had the DMO conducted a primary market auction on Monday, and at the auction they offered instruments worth about 225 billion naira to investors through a new bond issue. That's the April 2032 bonds, and reopenings of 13.5% March 2025 paper and the 13% January 2042 subscriptions. So that was how that market turned out. Then moving over to the Treasury bills market, it is also bearish. It also ended last week bearish, and this comes because there was weak system liquidity, and market participants were preparing to meet their bid for last week's primary Treasury bills auction. Of course, at last week's Treasury bills auction, the CBN offered about 120.97 billion worth of Treasury bills across the 91 days, the 182-day, and the 364-day dates to maturity bills. And ultimately, the CBN allotted about 130.05 billion naira, to participants at respective stop rates of 1.74%, which was unchanged, 3%, and 4.79% from a previous 4.60%. Then also, for the open market operations, the OMO, like we might likely call it, the average yield there expanded by about 21 basis points to 4.2%. But this is what you have in terms of the number of deals carried out there, and the highest number of deals was on the 13th of September 2022 paper later this year. Then for the CBN special bills, what we had is still on most of the concentration was on the 8th of August 2022 paper, which had number of deals. That's exactly the total number carried out, at the end of the day. Now, for the market, what do you expect for the market? We're expecting that traders say they maintain an uptick in bonds yield in the medium term, and then of course they also expect that the Treasury bills market, the demands to improve this week as system liquidity becomes buoyant, and then of course the FAC inflow. They expect that to boost liquidity.
Quite
in the
interesting. Quite interesting. Well, we're looking out to see how the market, the equities market, plays out in May. It was a good April. Let's see if it can replicate that in May. Exactly. Thank you so much, Anyete. All right. So after the break, we head to London. That's the moment to stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back to watching Business Morning live on Channels Television. Well, we have Juliana join us from the UK now. Great to have you, Juliana. Good morning. Well, all giant BP has more than doubled its underlying profits as the Ukraine war drove up energy prices, but it has taken a mammoth hit from quitting Russia. What are you hearing about this?
Yeah, good morning, Laddie. Well, this is certainly the business story of the week. BP, as you said, the oil titan, has reported more than double quarterly profits to £6.5 billion. That's just for the first 3 months of the year. As you said, the war in Ukraine has pushed up the cost of commodity, which has led to pretty exceptional oil and gas trading. So that's £6.5 billion. The city was forecasting £4.5 billion. And if you compare that to this time last year, they were reporting $2.5 billion profit. So they've had a mammoth result. Yes, lots of talk as well within the headlines about the hit it's taken from exiting Russia, $25 billion US. I think that is likely to be the highest hit that any company has taken since deciding to exit Russia. BP was pretty early in its decision to reduce its stake in Rosneft, which is the state-controlled oil and gas producer, in the very, very early months of very early days of March. And so they have had exceptional trading. Their share price is up 2%. No surprises, because it does appear like it is going to be payday for anybody investing in the big oil and gas companies. We've had similar results from ExxonMobil, Chevron. Their shareholders got a major payout. We're expecting BP to be giving very large dividends, because we know, especially because of regulatory rules from central banks, that lots of big firms were holding back because of the pandemic. They wanted to make sure they had enough money in their coffers. But oil prices going above $100 a barrel means that even with that $25 billion US hit, I think the profits of BP is still pretty high, eye-watering.
Right, quite eye-watering. But there's also talk about windfall tax on energy companies. How's this being digested over there? I hear there's some kind of debate on that.
Yeah, it has been a long-running debate about what happens with these big energy firms who are making exceptional amounts of money at a time where, you know, families are struggling to heat their homes and pay for their bills. There has been discussion of a windfall tax, and no surprises that as soon as these results came in this morning, we've had lots of calls from the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats urging the Chancellor Rishi Sunak and the Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng to do more to help families who are struggling. We did hear perhaps a suggestion from Rishi Sunak last week that he may apply some pressure to firms that are not investing in the UK. And of course, we know BP are doing just that. They announced late last year that they're going to be investing £18 billion in the UK by 2030. This includes manufacturing electric vehicle charging points, also putting money, investing in oil and gas, offshore wind firms. So they said that they are going to be doing as much as they can. Is it enough? I don't think it's going to be enough to, you know, serve the critics, and it's also not going to be doing enough to help families who are struggling today.
Right. Talk about profiting from the war, but we'll keep tracking that to see, you know, what kind of taxes would be decided upon. Thank you so much, Juliana. It was great talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
All right, now let's take a look at more markets. We have the Bitcoin market now. We see market cap stands at $1.74 trillion, and Bitcoin price stands at $38,550 this morning. That's down about 1.11%. We see Bitcoin price found support near the 37,400 level. It started a recovery wave, but Bitcoin was able to reclaim the 38,000 level and slowly moved higher. There was a clear move above the 23.6% fib retracement level, with the key drop from the $40,350 level. The price attempted to clear a clear move above the 38,800 resistance level, but we're seeing quite a struggle there between the bulls and the bears for the price of Bitcoin. Let's look at Ethereum now. We see Ethereum sitting at $2,846. That's down about 0.57%. Volume traded $18.10 billion. That's the king of the altcoins there, also struggling. Once Bitcoin struggles, all other coins struggle at this point. Looking at the top oil SPY market cap now, we see it's mostly red, marginally red. BNB down about 0.50%. Cardano, 79 cents. It's down about 0.25%. And we see eCash there, so down 1.28%. And XRP trying to get to that 50-cent level with the way it's looking. If Bitcoin gets more volatile, we might see 50 cent XRP at this point. It's down 1.22%. All right, let's look at the top 5 gainers. We have gainers this morning. We have Algo there, up 20.33%. Double-digit gain for Algorand there at 72 cents. And we see HNT up 8.37%. And OKB there, up 5.78%. So it's quite a mixed bag in the market this morning. Let's bring in Rume Ofi, digital market analyst. Hello, Rume. Great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Laddie. Good morning.
Happy holidays. Well,
happy holidays.
Yeah, Rume, well, Warren Buffett, we know he's not a fan of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, and he's been spitting fire against Bitcoin again. This time, he says he won't buy all the Bitcoin in the world for $25. Why do you think Mr. Buffett is back talking about Bitcoin again at this time?
It's sad to see someone of such recognition make such statement. It only shows that I usually tell people, most especially those in my community, that this is why the future always belongs to the young and not the old. We need to see this technology is actually making a lot of sense, and I think this. Grandpa doesn't understand. Quoting the words of Peter Thiel.
But Rume, he is the greatest investor of all time. He might know something here.
He knows something, but he doesn't know everything. That is why innovative technology are way far from these people. Quoting Peter Thiel, that the co-founder of PayPal, also a German-American billionaire entrepreneur, he said that Warren Buffett is a sociopathic grandpa, which means he's not in touch with the things that are going on in these time at innovative technology and finance. So but it comes from a very strong personality. Also, the third richest person in Brazil also came to him and said, man, this is quite different from what you think. See cryptocurrencies, most especially the flagship like Bitcoin, as a land, apartment, a store of value. So at least that makes some sense. People see things differently, and at some point, I'm very sure that he's going to see the good part of cryptocurrency as it goes on. It's just the fact that it's a new technology, just 13 years old. There should be some sort of resistance. Not forgetting the fact that Brazil very soon will be listing cryptocurrency as a digital asset, and payment method. Very soon.
Right,
into law.
And Warren Buffett wasn't also happy with, traditional stockbrokers in the U.S. He said they've turned, trading into gambling. They've turned investment into gambling at this point. So he was angry at, a whole lot of people, but the crypto community didn't like those statements. But now let's...
exactly.
Yes. But let's move on to another one. Now we see Argentina's largest and second largest private bank have announced they will allow customers make... crypto purchases. That's quite interesting coming from a bank.
Yes, this is where exactly I quite like it, because the world is getting aware of what is going on. Inflation in Argentina is 55%, double digit, more like Nigeria. And the biggest bank, Banco Gracicia and Broker Bank, a very big bank. Let's not forget the fact that Argentina is the 6th highest crypto adoption in the world. They've adopted, by Statista, they have adopted Bitcoin cryptocurrency a lot. Nigeria is quite ahead of them, but it's just unfortunate we have a peculiar situation. They are coming to say, man, we are going to get involved in crypto trading, and it's a very good signal for crypto adoption, considering the fact
Quite
that
interesting.
they are using this as a edge for inflation. The world finance is experiencing a whole lot. You see currencies going down. You see what's going on in Japan. We're used to us in Nigeria. So edging against inflation is one of the key things, and Argentina is taking it up right there.
Yeah, everyone's looking for that, hedge against inflation at this point because it is a global phenomenon at this point, Rome. Well, thank you so much, Rome. Always great to talk to you and have your insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ladi. Always a pleasure to show our people what's going on.
Thank you. All right, so looking at the top 5 losers counter, we see KNC there topping that count is down about 14.12%, and we see APE also giving back some of those gains, down about 9.75%. All right, that's a wrap on the market, and that's it for the show today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to join us at 1:30 for Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.